My message tonight is called Setting the Law in Motion. So we've talked about how the creative process works, many different ways to look at it and explore it, how we can use those principles in our lives, how we can use those principles in the life of our center and in the world. Tonight we're going to kind of review all of that and look at this idea, setting the law in motion. The law behind creative principles never changes. It's steady, it's reliable, it's simply the way things are. We need to learn to use that, not resist it, but use it to support our efforts to create that which we see and envision as possible and know is ours to do. So much of what Ernest Holmes taught is based on this idea. It's at the heart of much of what we teach and practice. How do we use our creative power? How does it work? So you see, we're born into a world where it seems that things happen to us. And so we grow up believing that. Now it makes sense because as a baby, we don't know anything. We can't communicate very well. We can't even hardly control our own bodies at first. And so everything is happening to us. We're being picked up, carried, food that we don't like poked into our mouth, strapped into our car seat. And so we grow up with that as our foundation, thinking that things are happening to us, that things from the outside happen that we have no control over. And so what Ernest Holmes taught us and wanted us to awaken to is that as we grow into adults, as we grow into our power, that is no longer the way it works. Now we create. We are the ones who cause what happens around us. He asked once, how much can we demonstrate? So demonstrate is another word that we use. Create, to manifest, to bring into form, demonstrate, to show, something that we can see. How much can we demonstrate, he asked. Here's what he said. Just what we can believe. How much can we see? How much can we accept? How much can we find in our consciousness? Whatever that is, that much can we have. Now, this is why the creative process sometimes seems to take time, because we're expanding that which we can see, that which we can know, that which we can accept. And as that takes time, so it takes time for what we're manifesting, what we're demonstrating to come into form. Now, I want you to be careful about something. So don't go to a place where you say, I should be further along the path than I am. Oh, I spent a lot of time there. Just berating myself, being down on myself. Like, oh my gosh, how can it have taken you so long? Like to learn one or two little things, and then you seem like you forget them, and you have to have another experience to remind you again. And I just thought I should be further along. Look at my age. Why am I so slow? Don't go there. You're in the perfect place. This learning to create, learning to use our creative powers is a lifelong process of learning. It won't end. We continue to expand our ability of what we can accept, what we can see, what we can know. We continue to experience new ways of doing that and to have experiences that help us practice our ability to do that. So, I talked about a baby. So we have to think of it that a lot of us are like babies in our spiritual progress. Now, a baby can't walk, but the baby is whole and perfect, just the way it is. And nobody says, well, there's something wrong with that baby because it can't walk. No. The baby's in the right place, and as the baby's life expands and its legs grow stronger and it gains more coordination, it will begin to walk. Now, that's how we are in our spiritual progress. We're where we are. We're at the level that we're at. And that's the perfect place for us to be, to learn, to practice, begin to pull ourselves up and walk along the couch little by little. Now, the problem is, see, a baby never gives up. A baby doesn't say, oh my gosh, this is just too hard. I keep falling down, and I've been trying, and I can't do it, so obviously it's not for me. I'm just going to give up and lie here. See, but that's what some of us do in our lives and with our spiritual progress. Well, I've tried. It's not happening. No. Be like the baby. Just keep trying. You fall down. You get stronger. You get faster. It's a lifelong process of learning. So, we're going to just take a very brief overview of all these things we've talked about with the creative process. Now, sometimes we talk about these as steps or aspects. Remember, there's no truth in that. It's not like this is the right thing and I need to memorize this. No, these are suggestions, invitations, ideas. Somebody may come at this from another angle. People may sort of start in a different place. So don't get bogged down in that either, of thinking that there's a right way to do it, and the reason it's not working is because I'm not doing it the right way. No, it's about expansion, about opening, not about a right way or a wrong way to doing it. A review of the process. Remember again, there are many paths to the top of the mountain. Our goal is to choose a path and take the first step. Too many of us spend our time running around the bottom of the mountain, like afraid we're going to take the wrong path, or thinking if we start that another path might be better. But no, just start. Take the first step. So what I'm talking about is like one possible way to think about this creative process. So we began our journey as a center by looking at the idea of wholeness. It's the very first part of that covenant. And the reason this is such an important piece of the creative process, this idea of coming from a place of wholeness, is that too often we try to create coming from a place of brokenness, of something needs to be fixed, something's wrong. It's going to be anywhere. We might be in a difficult relationship, and we think, oh, I want to recreate, love and respect and partnership. But we're seeing it in terms of fixing what's there. And as long as we do that, we might sometimes be able to make something happen kind of by sheer force of will, but there's not going to be any ease or grace or joy in it, and the results aren't going to last. Doesn't matter what it is. We may be wanting to create a sense of prosperity, and we immediately go to what's wrong. I don't have enough. There's not enough. I can't get a good job. My boss doesn't like me. If I could fix that, then I could create something new. It's not how it works. We start by coming to a place of wholeness, a place of be still and know, a place of simply knowing that all is well. We are not creating to fix something. We are creating because it's our nature to create, and because we can have what we can envision, what we can see. So in the covenant, it starts out with these words from Ernest Holmes about wholeness. Infinite wholeness is perfect peace within me. My thought is inspired, guided, governed, and directed by divine wisdom. The creative process starts when we come to that place of wholeness, We open ourselves to be guided, directed. So remember, we're always creating our lives. There's never a time when that's not happening. If you look around you at your life right now, your home, your finances, your relationships, that's what you've created so far. Nothing right or wrong. Sometimes we don't want to accept that. We want to think those things just happened. But no, we're creating all the time. That's what we created so far, and everything out there is an opportunity for us to create. Even when we see something that we don't like, I look out and I see hunger and violence, poverty in the world, and frankly, I get a little overwhelmed about that. But that's a place for me. That's an opportunity for me to create something new, not in a sense of fixing or solving, but simply, what if? What's possible? What could I create? So, of course, the question comes, how do I get there? How do I get to that place of wholeness? And that's where our spiritual practices come in. Everything we do, our meditations, our spiritual mind treatment, which is our word for prayer, because we're not treating anything out there. We're treating our own thoughts that are holding us back, our limited beliefs, our distorted ideas. Being with the practitioner, allowing them to know the truth for you, that you are whole, you are complete, you are an expression of divine energy showing up in form. Our services are often a chance for you to sit and be with that and know your wholeness, your perfection. Our classes, we teach practices how to do that. So, too often it seems that in the creative process we want to move forward too quickly before we've gotten to that place of wholeness. And that's human nature. We want to get moving. But sometimes what's necessary first is simply to be in that space of be still and know. Be still. Know your wholeness. Know your perfection. Let go of your ideas of trying to fix. Let go of any ideas of blame. I shouldn't have created this. I should have created something different. Just let that all go and see it all as an opportunity. Accepting that you have complete freedom at this point to go forward and create anything. So we start there, coming to a place of wholeness. This isn't something that happens one time and then we're there. The world presses in on us. We come back to that again and again. Meditating, sitting in the silence, reading the words of others that inspire us, that open us, coming back to our wholeness. And once we're there, then what? We might go into the practice that we call visioning. Now, visioning is different than envisioning. Visioning is a listening and an asking. And the question in visioning is, what's the highest idea for, it could be anything, for my relationship, for my work in the world, for what I'm meant to do, for what I'm called to do. What's the highest idea for my health? Now, this isn't an idea that's coming from outside of us. This is the highest idea. It exists there, comes from within, it surrounds us. It's a way to expand our thinking beyond trying to fix something that we see as wrong. So in this process of visioning, looking at what's the highest possible idea. Ideas come. Words, phrases, images, and out of that, we have a sense. And the next step is to act on those impulses that come. When we're in that space of wholeness, of opening ourselves, of listening, if a name comes to mind, call that person. If an idea comes up, even if it seems like, that won't work, all of our judging, let that go. Say, what if I acted on that idea? Then we talked about creating a clear mental equivalent. I like to think of this as the mold into which that infinite creative energy that we're surrounded with and that's ready and willing to take any form, just waiting for our direction, saying, take this form. A mental equivalent is our mold. This is the shape we want it to take. Our New Minister Sacred Covenant was our mental equivalent for our center. Divine, creative energy, life force, flow into this form. It's a loving, inspired, compassionate leader who fans the flame of our inner mystic, who supports our community, who loves and is passionate about artistic creativity. You see, that's our mold. And now that energy can flow in and take that form. As we're creating this mental equivalent, one thing I like to say is we do the best we can with that, but then at the end we say, this or something better. We keep in mind that there may be things available and possible that we can't even imagine because our thoughts are limited. So we say that, this or something better. And then if something different shows up, we accept it in that light. Well, this might be the something better. When I was a teacher, I taught paralegal students in college, and much of what I did was preparing them to go out on job interviews and to get a job as a paralegal with what they'd learned. And so a student would go on an interview and then come back and be discouraged because she hadn't gotten the job. And of course I would say, oh, wow, that means the universe has something even better in mind for you. That was my way of helping them see it in a new way. It wasn't something wrong. They had had that idea that that job was what they wanted to create, but what if there's something even better in store for them? So we listen, we create our mental equivalent, we take action. And then in all of it, we give thanks. In all things, we give thanks for opportunities, for things that didn't go the way we planned, for what we're learning, for the opportunity we have to be here, to be alive, to be growing, to be thriving, to be stretching our powers, to be learning to walk in a spiritual sense, to serve, to share, to grow. It's all a gift. And so in all of it, we're in this place of gratitude. Now, I heard an interesting question this past week that has just given me so much to think about. And the idea is, what if, after you die, an angel were to greet you and say, so tell me, what is it you loved most about being alive? So I started thinking about that. I've had like a lot of things that I enjoyed and that were great and that were good. It was kind of a challenge for me to answer that question. And then all these things I was thinking about, things that maybe I've loved about being alive, all happened in the past. And then I'm asking myself, what do I love most about being alive today? And that question kind of gave me pause because I don't know. I have a great life, but a lot of times it seems like I'm just kind of struggling to get by, tired, out of energy. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing next. So I committed myself to look at that. Like that every day I create something that I could look at that day and say, this is what I most loved about being alive today. And then I thought this, and I'll leave you with this. What if I could say, what I loved most about being alive was being myself. This whole creative process, our creative projects, so that we can grow into our true selves, experience what it is to be us, sharing our gifts, discovering them, giving up our fears of not being good enough, not being right, or fears of what people think. What if you could say, what I loved most about being alive was being me? That's a way to look at the creative process and what you're creating. It's been a wonderful 11 weeks with you, exploring the creative process, our new minister, Sacred Covenant, what's possible, the practices, ideas. And I encourage you to continue to expand your ability to use your creative power to create a life that you love, so you can look and say, this is what I love about being alive.